Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be doing another end of month ranking and this is the first one of 2025 for January, of course. Now I've got 7 movies to talk about here. I don't do these every month, but if I get enough horror movies I will do a ranking. If it's usually 4 or more, but yeah, we've got 7 right here. Now some of these may be classed as semi-horror movies, but most of them are pure horror, I'd say, but I just wanted to include them anyway. So if you don't class it as horror, I'm sorry, but I think there's enough horror elements in all of these movies to put it into this video. Now, I've done a couple of reviews for these films. I think I've done reviews for 3 of them. So I'll leave that in the link down below if you want to go and check out my full thoughts on some of these films. Don't forget to check that in the description. But let's just get into it now with the worst movie that I watched. Well, worst horror movie, should I say, in January 2025, and it is the only movie that I don't really like on this list. The other 6 I pretty much liked. Number 7 is Into the Deep. Now this was another shark movie that caught my eye. There's a couple of shark movies that come out every year that I think maybe this is the one, maybe this is one that's really going to be entertaining and stuff, and this one had Scout Taylor Compton in here, who a lot of people may not like because of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I think she's phenomenal in that movie. Whether you like that film or not, I think she puts a hell of a performance in from someone really suffering from trauma there, and it really comes across well. You got Richard Dreyfuss in here in his first shark movie in 50 years, since Jaws, of course. So that's what sort of pulled me in a little bit there. And I thought, yeah, I'll just give it a go. Now, this is following Scout Taylor Compton's character, who she's got a bit of trauma in her life because her father was killed in a shark attack. That's all explained at the start of the movie. And she goes back to where that happened, and she and her friends are looking for some treasure, really. And in the midst of all that, these pirates come along who've done a drug drop in the same location, coincidentally, and basically force them to go and find their drugs while these horrific sharks are roaming around the area. And it sort of gets a little bit too ambitious for its own good. There are a lot of things happening in this movie with the pirates, Scout Taylor Compton's backstory, and also the sharks. I will say the sharks story side of things is at the forefront, so if you're coming here for the shark action, you will get that. But I think there's a lot of frustration built up with this movie as well, because every time we're getting into the shark action and stuff, Scout Taylor Compton's character will remember something and we'll do a flashback to her getting swimming lessons, or, you know, Richard Dreyfuss teaching her about the ocean and stuff. So basically Richard Dreyfuss doesn't battle any sharks in this movie. He's basically just teaching Scout Taylor Compton's character to overcome her fears. This happens about 8 or 9 times during the film, and it is really irritating. It's really just taking you away from the action to something really, really boring. And I think Richard Dreyfuss must have filmed these scenes in a day or 2. The pirates who come along and try and force them down to get their drugs and stuff were fun enough. They are animated characters. I mean, they're not well acted or anything like that, but it brought a new dynamic to the film. But like I said, it tries to do too many things here. The acting across the board is not great, apart from Scout Taylor Compton, who does put in a good performance here. Nothing groundbreaking or anything, but she is the biggest positive about the movie. There's plenty of shark action, although some of it is poorly edited at times. I mean, most of it is just shadows under the water going to a certain person, and then you'll just see them be taken out. And the CGI blood really ruins it. The CGI on the sharks isn't bad, but the CGI blood is awful. I mean, it really does take you away from all of that shark action once that is spilt on the screen. So overall, not a great shark movie. One that had a little bit of promise just by going to movie poster and stuff and having Richard Dreyfuss in there and Scout Taylor Compton. But yeah, not great. I don't really recommend it. If you're an absolute shark movie lover, then maybe there might be something for you here. But I just found it a little bit of a drag. So that is Into the Deep. Coming in 6th place, we do have The Damned, which, like I said at the start of the video, I didn't hate anything from 6 to 1. I thought this was a pretty decent film. And I was struggling to maybe put it in 5th place, but it did end up in 6th place. Now, this sees a bunch of characters who are on this, like, fishing sort of rig. And this woman's husband is killed. And she is now the man or the commander of this sort of fishing I don't know what it is. It's kind of like just a fishing outpost, if you like, all set in the snowy sort of mountain glaciers of, was it Norway? I can't quite remember where this movie was set. I'm really sorry, but I think it was up Norway or Finland, was it? Might have been Finland, Iceland. I got up them ways anyway. And basically they are running low on food, and they're resorting to eating their bait that they use for fishing, because they can't really get out of this place for a few more days. And they see this bunch of people who are coming towards them who are in real trouble, and they have to make a judgment call basically to help these people or not. And I won't say too much more than that, but things start to go down a little bit of a sinister path once we see these characters come into the fray. Now, there's a lot of good dialogue between the characters here. Desperation sets in. The characters have to make difficult choices. And I think the movie does play on what your choices do to define the path that you're going to go on, or the future of other people in your life. You've got to make the right call here and there. I think that's what the movie is kind of playing on. Now, this is only a 90-minute film, but I can see a lot of people thinking this is a little bit of a drag. It's a very, very slow-paced movie, but I kind of got into it. I thought it was interesting. The third act really does amp up a little bit there. Nothing too spectacular, but enough to keep you fully entertained and locked in as to what is going on here. So, yeah, I thought this was a fine movie. It's not going to be for everyone, but I kind of dug it. So that is The Damned. Coming in 5th place is going to be Leigh Whannell's Wolfman. Now, this was actually my most anticipated movie of the entire year. And whilst I did like it to a certain level, it's probably going to end up on my most disappointing list for the end of the year, unfortunately, because I was so hyped about it. Because Leigh Whannell is a wonderful director. I've loved all 3 of his movies. But this one is definitely his weakest. Now, this is more reminiscent to a movie like The Fly, I feel. It's about this guy and his daughter and his wife who go to this cottage that has been left to him by his now deceased father. And when they get there, they are attacked by he is attacked by a creature. And the movie sort of slowly sees him turn into a monster, really, a werewolf, if you like. But it all takes its time to get there. And I think Leigh Whannell had this idea in mind of, there's a lot of great werewolf transformation scenes. What could we do making an entire movie based on one big transformation scene? And that's technically what this movie is. But it becomes an isolation film as well, because the family are kind of locked in there with the father, who's really deteriorating here and there. But there's also another creature outside, and they can't really, it's a catch-22 situation. Do they stay and, become sort of wolf bait for this father who's turning into this wolf, or do they go outside and risk getting carved up? So they are really in a dangerous situation there, and it all just builds up and builds up to basically getting more dread. However, the payoff isn't great. I don't think I was really expecting a lot in this third act, and the movie kind of just keeps the same steady pace throughout. I think the special effects are good here, the practical effects and stuff, seeing this guy just morph into a werewolf very, very slowly with fingernails coming off and everything. I like the look of him. I like the look of the creatures in this movie, the werewolves. A lot of people have complained about that, but I kind of liked it. The performances, spot on. Julie Garner, who's great in Apartment 7A, puts a real good performance in here. But it just felt a little bit empty by the end of it. And I was kind of like, okay, so that was what Leigh Whannell had in mind. Very, very slow-paced film, and sometimes a little bit boring, which is a horrible thing to say about a movie, but that's how I felt. There are situations where we see our characters have to overcome, like, they'll go outside and try and get in the car, and then this wolf will attack them, and they have to go back in the house and think of another way out. There are situations and curveballs thrown at them, but they're over very, very quickly. Then the movie will just see Julie Garner's character radio in and for help and stuff, and it just kind of feels like a 5-minute segment scene, and then it'll have the daughter asking her father if he's going to be okay and stuff, and then that goes on for a while. It's just scenes of not much happening. But overall, it was okay. That is Wolfman. Next up, we have Grafted, which came to Shudder. I heard a few people talking about this, and I was quite surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. So this is basically about this this young girl who goes to a new school in a different country. I think she might be Korean or something. I can't quite remember. She goes to this school and meets her stepsister or her sister. I can't quite remember, and her friends, and they don't really vibe together and stuff. But she is a specialist student. She knows everything about science and stuff like that because her father was just this great science and stuff, and he had this like experiment going on where he can graft skin onto your body in a very easy way by using these chemicals and stuff. But something goes very, very wrong with her father, and he meets his untimely death. So it is up to her to basically carry on his research and get this kind of a scientific phenomenon that he had and get it out there and finish what he started. But this all turns into a body horror film and goes in some crazy directions, and I was really loving what I was seeing. I was like, holy shit, are we really going there? You know, the main character, you have a lot of thoughts on her by the end of the movie, and I thought it was a really fucked up but fun time. The characters were kind of interesting and stuff, you know. It's kind of like the tagline in this is Mean Girls meets Reanimator, and I can definitely see why someone would say that because that's exactly what it felt like. It's kind of a chick flick type movie with body horror thrown in there, if that makes sense. Now, there are some things where you have to just suspend your disbelief a little bit. The characters not noticing certain things about other characters later on in the movie. And I was kind of like, oh, really? You're not really catching on to that. But overall, a pretty fun body horror film. And body horror seems to be making a little bit of a comeback these days, doesn't it? With the substance and stuff. So I think this one is worth checking out. I can't go into too much detail about it, but overall, it's a pretty fun ride. So that is Grafted. Next up, we have Presence from director Steven Soderbergh. He's made all sorts of wonderful films, hasn't he? And this has got to be his kind of lowest budget movie, I think, because this is more of a found footage type film in a totally different style, if you like. This sees this family, Lucy Liu it actually is, and her family move into this house, and it all is taken from the point of view of a ghost that roams the house, basically. So the camera is the ghost, and we see it from that point of view all of the time. And the characters can't obviously see this thing, but we see it. That's how we see it. And it's more of a family drama film than a horror. So I did say there was some semi horror movies on this list. But this one, I really got into this one. Now, the whole family sort of dynamic with the dialogue and stuff and just them interacting, I thought was really, really interesting. I don't really know why, because it's basically just this family have moved into a house discussing life. But I kind of got into it, you know. I thought it was wonderfully acted, and maybe the directing sort of elevated it, because if this was just filmed from a normal type of point of view, it probably would have been a very boring film. But the fact that you're watching it through a ghost's eyes kind of just, I don't know, enhanced it a little bit there. I can't explain why. I don't really know why I really like this film, but I got into it. Now, there's a certain character in this movie who, I don't know, you kind of raises questions a little bit, and you are kind of following what is going on there with this character, and you kind of don't know what to make of him at first. By the end of the movie, you've kind of made your mind up, and it just shows that this ghost might be the least of some people's problems. That's all I'm going to say there. But yeah, I really thought this was an interesting take on directing, really. I think Steven Soderbergh done a great job. And yeah, I mean, it's an 85-minute movie. It absolutely flew by. By the end of it, I thought, that was something a little bit different there. I can't quite put my finger on why I really liked it. I just did. It's worth checking out for yourself, you know, just to see something different, I suppose. That is Presence. Next up, we have Nosferatu. Now, I know this is a 2024 film, and I'm not going to include it in my 2025 ranking or anything, but it did come here in the UK on January 1st, so I just thought I'd throw it into this video. I've done a full review on this. I've done a Robert Eggers ranking, guys. I'll leave all that in the link down below. I've done a Lee Winnell ranking as well, so I'll leave my director playlist down below. I'm going to check all that out. But this one, I was quite looking forward to. There's only one Robert Eggers movies I'm not really fussed on, which is The Lighthouse. But the other two I thought were excellent. And I thought, you know what, if there's anyone who can do a take on Nosferatu, it's Robert Eggers. And I gotta say, I think he's done a pretty good job here. Now, I didn't absolutely love this movie or anything. It was a little bit, not disappointing, but it didn't fully meet my expectations. However, it was still a pretty solid 7.5 movie out of 10. But this sees Nicholas Holt's character, who is just great, isn't he? I mean, I just see him in a lot of things now, and I absolutely love everything I see him in. Going to basically sell a house to Count Orlok, but he has to travel a long way. And Count Orlok is going to come to this town and buy this new house. And Bill Skarsgård plays this Count Orlok character, and what I just thought he was absolutely wonderful in this film. I mean, Robert Eggers does really well to hide him in the shadows till the very end of the movie. You kind of are making out what he think he looks like in your head, but the shadows dance around him so wonderfully. Robert Eggers is such a brilliant visual director. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a better visual director out there right now. I mean, all his movies, including The Lighthouse, which I don't like, just look amazing, don't they? They are wonderful to look at, and this is no exception. The whole gothic feel we have here and everything is absolutely amazing. The first half of this film is a real solid build-up. I was totally digging it. I was really just following this Nicholas Hoult character around going, who is he going here? When are we going to get to this Count Orlok? What does this Count Orlok want? I was so intrigued by the whole mystery surrounding this story and what Lily Rose Depp's character had to do with it as well. And it is all revealed in the second act of the movie, but I do feel like the second act of the film is not as good as the first act of the film, and it was living up to so much promise there and kind of just flatlined a little bit. I did like the second half of the film. I just was expecting a little bit more, that's all. But I've heard you can really dig this a lot more on rewatch from a lot of people, so I would really like to give this one another go. I may pick it up on 4K or something. There was a lot to like here. I was just a little bit at the end, that just could have been something a little bit more. But an enjoyable flick, really good vampire movie, and Bill Skarsgård, the voice, man, it's haunting. It really is. So yeah, one to check out, I think. That is Nosferatu. Coming in at number one, though, guys, is going to be Companion. Now, I hadn't really even heard of this film until a couple of weeks before going to see it. I just looking at my calendar and going, what's coming out here? Writing down what I'm going to watch and stuff. And I went, Companion? What the hell is that? Oh, it's got Sophie Thatcher in there and Jack Quaid, who are wonderful in this film, by the way. I'll go and check that out. And I really don't want to get into too much detail about this movie, because if you haven't seen it, the trailer or the movie, it's best going in as blind as possible. I did not watch any trailers leading up to this because I hear people say that the trailer gives too much away. So I thought, I'm just going in here kind of blind. I kind of knew a little bit of the concept. That was it. But there's so many twists and turns in this movie, guys, that it's just so fun when they happen. And all the way through, you're kind of like, where's this going now? What are these characters up to? I'm not going to get into plot details or anything, but what I will say is Sophie Thatcher, Jack Quaid are just awesome in this movie. They've got a real great chemistry together. Sophie Thatcher, man, she's got these like real great facial expressions on her. I can tell why the woman's an actress. She's really just something unique to look at, the way she smiles and stuff. She really has got that glow about her, I suppose. And Jack Quaid is absolutely awesome in this. He's just such a fun character to be around. But what I liked about all the other characters as well, well, they were pretty fun as well. All the side characters and stuff, they're kind of a blast to hang around with, you know. And there's some real cool violence here, balancing really well with the comedy. It kind of reminded me of Ready or Not. They're the vibes I got from this film. And I've heard a few people say they agree with my thoughts on that. So kind of expect something along them lines with a different concept thrown in. And I think there's some good social commentary in the background here about relationships and controlling relationships and stuff like that. But it's more in the background, you know, it's not really forced on you or anything like that. So, yeah, really fun film, guys. I only have one issue with it, really, and that was the pacing of the movie. At times, I was like, oh, this is really slowing down a little bit here now, more in the second act of the film. It felt like it didn't really know where to go at times, but definitely picked up again on the third act. So, yeah, quite a fun movie, guys. Definitely recommend it. And the best movie to come out in January, in my opinion. That is Companion. Okay, guys, hope you all enjoyed this video. What did you think of these movies? Is there any I missed? I really did want to watch Dark Match on Shudder. I just couldn't get to it in time. I did watch about 30 minutes of it and fell asleep, but what I watched, I just really didn't like. I just haven't gone back to it yet, but let me know your thoughts on these movies, guys. If there any I missed that you recommend, please do let me know. Thanks so much. If you want more monthly rankings, I'll leave them down below as well, along with my director rankings and stuff like that, and some of the reviews for these films that I talked about. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe if horror is your sort of thing. Thanks so much. You all take care. I'll see you all on the next video.